because we all say we're customer centric, but a lot of us make decisions from a product centric focus or from an operation centric focus. All of the above are fine. No one's going to say Apple hasn't been successful in this process, but you have to make those decisions clearly and rationally and know which one you are so that you can bring the right people to the table.
Today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You are made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's guest is Alyssa Nolte, and she is an entrepreneur and customer experience researcher who started her career with a handshake and a $100 commission deal. With a background in marketing and psychology, she went on to work in user experience research and partnered with Fortune 100 companies shaping billion-dollar strategies. Today, Alyssa runs her own customer experience research firm and hosts 2 podcasts focused on buyer behavior, revenue strategy, and growth, while proudly remaining a notorious plant killer who embraces imperfection as a part of the journey. Y'all, put your hands together for Alyssa Nolte. Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, thanks for having me. I have to tell you, we have a tradition in Iowa where I'm from for our entrepreneurs. When they get up to present, we all stand up and give them a standing ovation as part of before they even present. So I feel very at home here with your applause.
Yay. Good. I'm so glad. We definitely want you to feel welcome because you truly are special, and it is a gift of your time to us that we get to share together. So I'm so grateful for this time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. So Alyssa, let's hop right in. I know you probably were not born with a customer experience spoon in your mouth. So how did you get from the very beginning to where you are today? What was your journey into this field?
I had fully planned on becoming a psychologist. That's what I was going to be. I had gone to school. I was going to get my psychology degree, and I was going to be a shrink. And thank God for the people around us who know us better than we do, because my parents were like, I don't think that you should get a degree in that. You can get a degree in psychology. That's perfectly fine. But maybe we get a real practical degree, one that doesn't require grad school in addition. So they kind of forced me to add a business degree to my double major. So I ended up going into psychology and marketing, because what is marketing if not the application of psychology and how we make decisions in the commercial world? And I really found my niche, discovered that I would have been a terrible shrink and really belonged in that consumer behavior, consumer psychology world. And it was really just natural for me.
Wow. And I love it when we have people around us who can speak into us, who can say, look, this might be where you are and what you might want to do, but I see in you something more. I see in you something even greater. Why don't you consider this, or that? And all it takes is one seed to be planted, and then you're like thinking these thoughts that you never thought you'd think. And then you're down some other road. But it made perfect sense for you to partner or merge these two fields of study because they are so similar.
Yeah.
The marketing and the psychology behind the customer is and how you appeal to them from a marketing standpoint go hand in hand. I mean, you need one for the other, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So how has your marketing and psychology background shaped how you lead buyers?
That is an interesting question because it is so true. They are such a crossover. And I would say that I was gonna go into that psychology, right? And then I ended up with the interest in consumer behavior. I didn't actually really plan to do anything with it when I was getting ready to graduate. I I actually had 2 job offers, one from an agency to be a sales executive and to sell advertising for, car dealerships, and then the other was to be a regional director for the Alzheimer's Association here in the Midwest, and so I had these 2 incredible job offers that I was kind of looking at, and I was gonna go do the traditional thing and work down that traditional corporate path, do the thing where we all work 40 hours a week and live for the weekends. And then I came across this startup that was building a business in the incubator at our local university. And they were doing something I'd never seen before. They were using eye tracking technology to understand how people experience marketing. What are they looking at? What are they seeing? What do they pay attention to? And what do they ignore? And I was so fascinated by this technology that even though I had no intention of joining a startup and becoming a quote unquote entrepreneur, I just couldn't say no. And so you mentioned at the beginning when you were going through my bio that I joined a startup right out of college. This was the startup that I joined and I was 100% commission, right? Like if I didn't sell anything, there was no money coming in my door because this was a brand new company who had never made a dollar before. And what I
Mhm.
loved about them the most was it really gave me a chance to impact the way companies were creating marketing and events and visual experiences for their customers to create an outcome, which was to get more customers in the door and to get customers who were more qualified and to close more deals.
Right, right. Because I mean, that's the bottom line of it all, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got to close the deals and you got to do what you've got to do to make it happen. And understanding who your customer is and where they're from, what they've been through, what appeals to them, how they think about things when they see certain things, and whether it's a color or a shape or whatever, it all matters.
Yeah,
So,
and often it's just as interesting what they're not seeing, right? So like if you're looking over a website and you have a really important call to action, it is the most important thing on your website. And we discover through our research that nobody even sees it. It's on the page, but they're kind of skipping right past it.
oh
That
wow.
can really change how you approach your strategy. And you can't necessarily see that from analytics. You might see that someone comes on the page, scrolls to the bottom, and then leaves. What you're
Mhm.
missing is whether someone is actually seeing the thing that you need them to see, understanding and processing it, and can really connect with what you're trying to do.
Right. Do you have any examples of that, of like a situation where you maybe had a client and they were hoping to get one effect from their website or whatever, but it was a total miss?
Unfortunately, I have almost too many examples to even talk about because you mentioned earlier just how important it is to know your customer.
Mhm.
And I hear a lot of people like when I say, "Oh yeah, what's the thing that a company needs to do?" Well, you need to deeply understand your customer. And everyone's like, "Yes, I do." And then we start to talk about it, we start to dive into it, we start to dig into it, and we discover that they understand their customer through their own lens as
Mhm.
the business. And
Mm.
that is one of the hardest things to do is to really take yourself out of your own context, your own bias, your own experiences to create an experience that is really truly designed for your customer. Not designed for the CRM fields that you need to fill in, not designed for the funnel you've created, but designed for your customer. And it is very, very difficult to take yourself out of that because, of course, we're here to make money. I need to get someone from point A to point B, and that's my goal. And how do we balance? I need these outcomes, and my customer need these outcomes, and make sure that we're all winning in this conversation. So, one of the things that we have found is that clients assume context. Clients assume that you understand why this new feature that you're rolling out is a game changer. Clients assume that customers understand how to sign up or what their requirements are. I'm working with a client right now who they have two different paths for their product. They're basically the same product, but one product allows you to sign up today, and one path requires you to talk to a salesperson. There is not a single person that we are talking to from their customer base that understands the difference. Every single one of them thinks they can click here to sign up. Not a single one of the people that we have talked to actually qualifies for that. They would have to make a phone call. And so we've identified a friction point that could simply be explained by the right messaging. But because it's obvious to the people who built the website that you have to call versus click here, they didn't think to explain it that way.
Wow. I mean, even just, I mean, as I'm hearing the story, that what if you just say, are you a, you know, ABC type person? Click here. Are you a XYZ type person? Click here.
Exactly. And it is that easy sometimes. It is as easy as allowing people to self-select into their own path. But there's this little voice in our head that tells us we have to create the path for them. We have to hold their hand along the way. We have to move them along the journey rather than drawing the map and letting them follow it however they may.
Right, right. Because, yeah, I see that. And I can see how that could be a huge problem. And probably, I mean, people spend so much time on their websites and it's such an important marketing tool. And everyone's trying to get it just right. And when you're missing the mark and not knowing why, then that's, frustrating. But thank goodness there's people like you to be able to walk them through what it looks like to fix it and get it right. So thank you for what you do. So what lessons, Alyssa, then have you learned from Fortune 100 partnerships that help shape these billion-dollar strategies that you're now able to implement with your clients?
I have been working with Fortune 100 companies for a very long time. They were some of our earlier customers, surprisingly. And it's really interesting to see how those decisions get made. When you are a large organization, and honestly, probably I could go down to really any organization of any size. When you have more than one decision maker in the room, there is a jockeying for the outcome that best suits what you are looking for. So you're in a board meeting, the CFO wants to cut costs and the CEO needs to bow to investors. The marketing team wants the ability to have more budget, to build more things and create new things that they want to do to bring in those leads. And the sales team wants as many leads as possible to close the deal and to get them through all their CRM fields so they could do their Monday morning forecast reporting. And what I've discovered is that there is very often an empty chair at that table, and it is the chair for your customer. And so that's really the way that we've stepped in to help shape these billion-dollar strategies is we become the customer's advocate, their seat at the table, so that the brands that are trying to make sure that they stay customer-centric can co-develop those experiences with their customers. And I can say to the CFO, I understand your perspective on wanting to cut something, but here's the impact that has downstream to your customers. And are you okay with turning away or turning off or losing this segment of your customer base because of that decision? A lot of times they miss the downstream impacts of the boardroom decisions.
Right. Because it's, sorry. I love, as you were talking about this room, and all the different people that are involved in this room and that chair for the customer that's just empty. The visual I got in my head was so vivid and so crystal clear that empty seat is the most important seat.
It is for most companies, yes.
Mm-hmm. Because if you can't reach them, you're not going to get them.
And
that's my very simplistic way of seeing that.
Well, and it is that way. And I say for most companies because there is something that I'm seeing. I'm sure if you think about it, you'll see it too. Companies want to say that they are customer centric because it is the right answer. They want to say that they're focused on doing what is best for the customer because that's the answer that you're supposed to give. And what I found is there's really only three types of decision making criteria. You can either be customer centric, meaning that you are trying to build something that truly meets the needs of your customer. You can be operation centric, which means that you are trying to deliver on a service with the most profitability possible. Or you can be product centric, which means you are trying to create the most beautiful version of the thing that you are building. So, for example, Apple, very product centric, right? There are things that customers are screaming for and they're not getting simply because Apple doesn't want to put it into their product. And so when you make these decisions, when you decide who gets a seat at the table and who gets a voice, you have to have a very clear understanding of your business and what you truly are. Because we all say we're customer centric, but a lot of us make decisions from a product centric focus or from an operation centric focus. All of the above are fine. No one's going to say Apple hasn't been successful in this process, but you have to make those decisions clearly and rationally and know which one you are so that you can bring the right people to the table.
Right. That makes perfect sense. It really does. So is that part of what your customer experience research uncovered in terms of what really drives growth?
A lot of what we do is when we find one of those companies who are customer centric, who want to build something that truly reflects what their customer cares about, we will help them create those experiences. So for example, they have 3 new website designs that they want to roll out and they haven't launched any of them yet. So we will actually bring those designs to their customers and test the flow of information. And is this enough information for you to make a decision? And what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what's missing? And then we come back to the developers and say, okay, put that one into production, make a few tweaks here and there, or scrap them all entirely because none of these really meet the mark. And so our job is to take this thing that you've created, that you're super close to, that you care about, that you've put a lot of time and energy to, and remove it from that emotional experience of being concerned about, if anybody likes it. And we bring it into the realm of, is it effective? Is it doing what you want it to do? And from the objective perspective of the customer, who doesn't care that your boss approved it and likes it the best and it's their favorite one, but rather which one is most likely to drive the outcome we're all looking for, which is new sales.
Right, exactly. And like I said before, that's the bottom line, is more sales. If you're in business, usually that's the
I mean, even if you're in anything, right? Because even if you work for a nonprofit, you need more donations. Even if you own a business, like if you are existing in today's world, it's all about getting more sales, more deals, more opportunities. That is an unfortunate truth. Like we don't live in a utopia. So we got to do the thing, right?
Right, absolutely. And so, Alyssa, what's the surprising solution in all your experiences? Was there some way off left field thing that happened that delivered crazy, outstanding results?
I think that when I was looking at the body of research that I've done for the last couple of years, and I've worked with different groups. I've worked with political campaigns trying to figure out, how do we get a presidential candidate to speak clearly and to get their message across and connect with voters. I've worked with large scale SaaS companies and small scale nonprofits like food banks. And I think the most surprising thing is that we are all doing too much. A lot of times customers have already made a decision by the time they pick up the phone or fill out a form or connect with your sales team in any meaningful way. And yet we bring these prospects in and we make them jump through all of these hoops and we do all of this discovery on them. And we bring them through a demo and we make them sit through an hour-long meeting when they've probably already decided that they're ready to buy. This is just validation for them that that their assumptions that they're making from your website were correct. So I think we really, as salespeople, have to figure out, how do we learn to say yes when a customer is ready to buy and move the process forward, even if it means we don't get all the discovery that we need in order to put it into our CRM. If the customer's ready to go, it's okay to just say yes and take their money.
Yes, it is. I'm with you 100%. Yeah, so many people get caught up in the following the SOP and checking all the boxes and making sure that this question got asked and that question got answered. And if they come in and they're like, look, I want to do the deal, and you're like, okay, but then okay, let me do this, and then you're talking yourself out of a sale potentially.
It happens so much more than I think you would think, right? How many calls have you sat through where you're like, okay, sir, yes, I already have watched this demo. This demo you're giving me, this live demo, I watched the video version on YouTube. I don't need to watch you do it live. It's not unique. It's not different. You're following the same script as the voiceover that I followed. And if we simply allowed customers and prospective customers to be an equal part of that conversation, then I bet we would close deals a lot faster and everyone would be a lot happier. Now, not to say qualification is a bad thing, because sometimes like people come in and they're not a good fit, so they're not going to be happy once they actually buy your service or your product. But for the most part, in today's information age, people have decided. So it's okay to just like let them decide.
Right, exactly. And when they say yes, believe them.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Alyssa, how do you balance deep problem solving with forward momentum? Because I can see how there could be a bottleneck when you're trying to get to the bottom of something, but not impeding momentum.
There are times when we will find a really systemic problem in what we are seeing in someone's website or whatever they're having us test, whatever they're having us evaluate. And unfortunately, sometimes those problems are solvable, but it's either too expensive to solve them, or for some reason, it is just not something that we can do in the time frame that we have. And like with everything, life is full of trade-offs when you're a business owner. Yes, you would like to do everything. You would like to go to that event or hire this person on the team or have a Super Bowl advertisement, but your constraints are budget or time or whatever the thing is that means that you can't do that. And we find the same thing when we are going through someone's website or looking through someone's marketing or giving them some kind of advice on what could be fixed. And so we have to be very strategic on how we present the problems that we are seeing and the things that we think they need to solve, because some of them just aren't feasible in the time frame. And so we try to focus on what is the business impact of this recommendation and how can we help our clients prioritize to either make a sweeping change if we think there's going to be an appetite for that, or what are the incremental steps they can take to move their website forward to make it easier to buy from them or to understand who they are and what they do. And so when you're making those decisions, you really have to deeply understand what is the priority for your client, what does it mean for them to move forward, and what is and isn't feasible in their environment.
Right, right. Those are so critical and so key, and that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. So as you think about tackling all these complex challenges and trying to get to the root of the situations and the causes of whatever it is that they're experiencing, while trying to keep the bottom line and what's most important to the business in mind, how do you stay grounded while doing all of that?
It can be very difficult because there are times where I have my own perspectives and my own biases that I bring into any conversation, right? And you have to really make sure that whatever you are doing, saying, recommending, or prioritizing is reflected in the actual results of your research and your understanding, not colored by your personal preferences or what you would like to see happen. And it does require active separation of self and being able to say, what is my opinion versus what is the data saying? And a good way to do that is to make sure that you have people on the team who are willing to stand up and say the truth if they see something differently, instead of just being worried that like, okay, if I disagree with my boss, then I'm going to get in trouble. I get brought in to do that all the time for other businesses. That's 50% of my business is somebody has to tell their boss the truth and they're worried about getting in trouble or getting fired. So I come in to say the things that the team is seeing in their data, seeing in their research, but they don't have the proof to bring to the table.
Wow. And I'm sure that they appreciate that too, because those can be some hard conversations, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness.
And
The number of times I've had to stand up and tell a man who makes 10 times my salary and has been in business twice as long as I have that he's wrong, that can be terrifying. And he's not even my boss. I couldn't even imagine if he was responsible for my salary and my livelihood.
right. Right. Well, this is so good, and I'm so glad that you are there for your clients to help them navigate these very important aspects of their business because, understanding your client, knowing who they are and especially while they're trying to scale, they need to know what's working, what's not working, how do we get to that next level? And you're there to help them use real data to make decisions so that they can get there. So as we think about that, what core principles should entrepreneurs follow when they are scaling?
I think the biggest thing that you need to pay attention to as an entrepreneur is if you are just getting started, then you need to make sure that you are really, really focused on understanding who your customer is. And that is one of those things that it's really important that you really think about, do I understand or do I think I understand? So I'll give you an example. There was a viral news story about two men who had created a product targeted at women. And it was essentially like a set of gloves to go along with your menstrual products. And two men who had, obviously had never experienced that before, created this product, and women laughed them out of the room. And yet they had all of this money invested from these investors who also men who thought that, you know what, this makes sense. Women are going to want rubber gloves to go along with their menstrual products, and then discover that actually women don't want this. And this was not something that anybody was going to buy. They lost their shirts on those investments because they spent all this money to develop essentially pink rubber gloves and to go out and pitch it and market it. They thought they understood a problem. They thought that they had a solution. They thought that they understood what these people who were going to be their customers wanted. They had a fundamental misunderstanding of that experience. And that's an extreme example, but it happens all the time where we take a one-off experience or a one-off conversation and we generalize it to an entire population of people, forgetting that if we do not actually have conversations with these people about what they want, what they don't want, then we are going to miss out on either a great opportunity to solve a problem, or we're going to create a problem that nobody wants.
Right. And why create a problem where one doesn't even exist?
Yeah, there's plenty of real problems in the world to solve. We don't need to invent problems nobody's willing to pay for.
Right, exactly. And would you say, so hearing you talk makes me think about there used to be times like when you walk around the mall and people would pull you into this room and ask you to fill out this form or a survey and be a part of a focus group. They want to ask you questions about how you feel about this particular movie or this drink or something like that. Do they still, is that the kind of data that's still collected these days?
Yeah, it's exactly like that, actually. So I'd ask you, okay, Renee, tell me, who is your perfect customer? Like if I'm at a coffee shop, how do I know that I need to introduce them to Renee? And then I get your details of your bullet points of who is the perfect customer for Renee. And then I would go out and say, okay, we're going to find people who meet this criteria. We're going to find 10 people who match exactly who Renee is looking for. And we're going to present them with your website and your marketing materials and your videos and your value proposition and how much you cost and everything that goes along with doing business with you. And we're going to figure out what moves them, what stops them, where they connect with you, what resonates and what doesn't. And as we're thinking through that relationship, the goal is to make sure that when you do find that perfect customer, when you do connect with the ideal person in the wild or at the coffee shop, it's not even a question of whether or not they want to do business with you. You speak to their needs. They get it. They want it. And most importantly, they have the capacity to buy it. And that's where a lot of people get lost is it doesn't matter if they get it or they want it. If they can't pay for it, they're not your customer.
Right. Exactly. 100%. And so I love your advice. One of the most fundamental principles you have to follow as a business owner is understanding who your ideal client is. What moves them? What motivates them? What are their, can they afford you? How much do they
Yeah.
make?
Yeah.
Where do they live? Where do they hang out? What kind of people, do they associate with, and what do they do? All these different things matter when it comes to being able to offer them something in a way that appeals to them.
And a lot of times too, I think you will find that your ideal customer is not who you thought they were. So I'll give you another example. I mentioned that startup that I joined when I first got out of college, and they were using eye tracking technology to see what people are seeing on their website. They had a secondary use of that technology, which was to detect Parkinson's disease. And so if you're familiar with Parkinson's, it often shows up as tremors in the hands and in the limbs. We discovered during our research that we could actually detect Parkinson's disease much earlier. We could detect it through motion in your eyeballs. And so during this process, we discovered that actually your eyes are so much more sensitive than the rest of your extremities that we could detect Parkinson's disease years earlier, which means you can get early intervention, which means we can save 85% of your neurons in your brain to allow for a better quality of life and longer time with your loved ones and all of those things that sound really great and sound really like something everybody could want. Who wouldn't want that? And
Right.
we developed this. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop this technology. It worked. We could prove that it worked. We never sold a single machine. And it was one of those moments where I had a real eye-opening moment on that, because I'm thinking like we can do this. We got it. Who doesn't want this? It's a miracle.
Right.
But the patients are not the customers when it comes to this. The families of the Parkinson's patients are not the customers. The doctors are. The hospitals are. They are the ones who would pony up to buy a machine like this. And from their perspective, the current way that they were diagnosing Parkinson's, which was essentially you'd come into the office, they'd ask you a series of questions. They might hand you a piece of paper and see if your hand shakes. And if it does, then you have Parkinson's. That was their process, and it was good enough. And they were not willing to pay for the cost of having a machine that had a single purpose of detecting Parkinson's disease, because what they had was good enough. And so sometimes it doesn't matter if you have the greatest product in the world, if you have the greatest solution and it works, if it is life changing, if the people who have to buy it do not understand how it benefits them, how it makes their lives better, how it improves their ability to charge patients and bill insurance, they're not going to buy it. So the ultimate customer, the doctors, didn't find value in it. So the technology died.
Could it have been a marketing issue?
It very well could have been.
Like
Yeah.
how it was framed. I mean, I can't believe nobody wanted this.
I mean, if you think about it though, Renee, if I came to you and I said, I have a machine, it's going to cost you $100,000 to detect Parkinson's disease. You'll still be able to charge your patients, $50 a visit or whatever the number is. And then you would reply back to me and say, I've got a piece of paper that detects it. I get it 85% of the time. That's 85% good enough for me. And the economics don't make sense because I can't charge more for it. And like, that sounds really icky because it's medical, right? And of course we all want to think that we are here to get the best care possible. But at the end of the day, they are corporations. They do have to make money, and it is a part of their calculation. So the decision was what they currently have is good enough. So therefore, we're going to go ahead with what we currently have.
That is so sad. That is really disheartening to know that there's solutions out here, that there's remedies out here, there's early detection available out here for Parkinson's and those suffering with it that could be detected so much sooner and give more people longer quality of life that is not being utilized.
And of course, that's an extreme example with hospitals, but that same calculus, that same decision happens everywhere in business, and is something that you have to actively decide that you're going to do. It's not something that, like, if you are not actively deciding to not do something, then it's still a decision. And deciding to ignore a opportunity or a customer or an improvement, that's a decision you're making whether you realize it or not. So my call to people is just make sure you know the decisions that you're making. Make sure you understand the downstream impact, because there will be a decision, there will be an impact. You might just not know what it is, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
That's right. That's like Saturday's gonna come, all day. Today is Friday. Saturday is coming. Yes, whether you decide to believe it or act on it or not, it's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love that. So we can't not make decisions, and even when we don't, it's still impactful. It can definitely make a difference and impact someone's life, either for the good or for the bad. And it's on us. So we have to be wise. And I think that it's great to get more user data, more qualifying information to help us target more accurately how to speak to those spaces that would drive them to be a buyer.
Absolutely.
So this has been so great, Alyssa. Tell the people how they can stay in touch with you and learn more about this, and how they can get more understanding and implement more of this in their own businesses.
So if you liked our conversation today, you can find me on LinkedIn. You search Alyssa Nolte. If you find the notorious plant killer, you will know that you found the right Alyssa Nolte. You can also head to my website, which is alyssanolte.com. And then you'll find links to my podcasts, my Substack, everything that I've got going on. My Substack is Alyssa Likes to Talk.
I love that. Love it. Love it. As we wrap up today's show, if there's nothing anyone remembers from today's show, what do you want them to walk away with and not ever forget?
Make sure that your customer gets it, that they want it, and they have the capacity to buy it. Because if they don't have those three things, they are not your customer.
I love it. Alyssa, you were made for something great. So go and be awesome.